thank you once again to the organizers of this event, Ben and Amber and Dominic and whoever else was. Yes. Yeah, it's really for me very inspiring to be here. I don't know anything about those things that are being presented, so lots of food for thought and maybe kind action. I loved the mentioning of strawberry and growing of strawberry and consumption of eating strawberries. I have a garden, and I only recently learned how to grow strawberries. And of course, you're not actually doing it. You're doing some of it. Or you're working with a lot of entities and suddenly there is a strawberry and you can eat it or share it, and it's a very beautiful, joyful moment. So maybe what I'm going to do today is to dwell also on such tiny moments that also for me have a lot of importance. I liked how the previous speakers sort of positioned themselves quite elaborately. I didn't prepare to do this because, well, we sometimes do that in anthropology, but not always. So I forgot to do it, but I can do it, and maybe it is relevant. I think it is relevant to think about why are we doing what we're doing and what are our intentions, and maybe also for other people to sort of be able to reflect upon what this crazy research is about. Anyway, so if I should also share it, I'm from Denmark. I grew up in rural Denmark in a kind of middle-class family. Mom and dad divorced very early. But then, and it is relevant for what I'm doing actually, because my dad went into pretty radical political activism and sort of, in the end, disappeared for some years, and it took a while to reconnect and to also figure out why did he do that, this kind of idealism, and he was very much engaged in the Palestinian cause, which is of course very urgent now as well. But the complexities of that, of seeing people devoting themselves strongly, but then departing from your own life, is complex. And then, for some strange reasons, I didn't prepare to talk about these things, but I ended up going to the Middle East to figure out what happened, why did he do all this, and spending time in refugee camps, and then met these sort of Sufi Islamic communities as well that were very interesting for me, sort of at an existential level as well, but in a way represents almost the opposite of what he was in the Middle East to do, like religious stuff. That's the devil, right? In the kind of religion I grew up in. So I think I often found myself crossing these boundaries of people who really regard each other with despise and not so much kindness always. Anyway, and I kind of continued working on those things, ended up working with sort of people who are called radical Islamists in Denmark, and then secular psychiatrists, and the battle across bodies that are ill of jinn possession or schizophrenia or whatever you want to call it, and how they and then at some point I finally found the solution. So I escaped into studying experiences of light and then experiences of love. And so this urge to study experiences of love is also something, it's also about my own personal longing to be loved, or feel loved, and to be able to love as well. And I realized that I'm not alone in that. So that's great. Lots of people to conduct this study with. So I've been invited to give a talk on our ongoing project, Heart Openings, the experience and cultivation of love in Buddhism, Christianity and Islam. So this project, so now I'm going to be more formal. This project is still ongoing. I'll not be able to provide final conclusions. I hope at some point maybe, but I don't know if this is possible. Whenever we try to present conclusions around love, it gets very difficult. People react very strongly against it. So maybe it should just stay very soft. But I hope to discuss the background of this project, to show examples of our research and to discuss our methodology. Through this, I hope to contribute to the conversation we have about kindness at this workshop. And the questions I'm asking, which are, I think, key to, or maybe already answered in some of the previous, but I'm going to ask them again. So is it possible, or I ask them from within my own discipline, which is anthropology, is it possible or is it a good idea to find a way or to further develop a way of doing anthropology of and from the heart? Can the bodily, emotional and spiritual heart be both an object of inquiry and a starting point for research? Would that be interesting? Could it be useful? And if so, what then is needed in order to do anthropology of, on, with or from the heart? Anthropologists have often, and often rightfully so, been accused of being involved in colonial and exploitative relationships. But mutual care, respect, responsibility and love have also played a role in the long-term relationships that can develop through anthropological research. So we are not starting from scratch. There is something to build upon. Is it possible to give those qualities of the heart even more space in research and teaching, in scientific criticism, and in our engagement with the communities and environments in which we live and work? So a first observation I can offer is that I still do not know so much about the heart. It's a big topic. So what I build upon is not certainty, but an intuition that attending to the qualities of the heart are important in order to understand and counteract the tensions and the indifference and the intercultural misunderstandings that characterize our contemporary world. So in the following I'll show examples of the use of audiovisual, multimodal and microphenomenological methods that I believe can help us to address these questions by deepening our understanding of the role of the senses, the body and emotions in human life. I also invite for a short auto-elicitation exercise, because I saw someone doing that yesterday, so I thought we could try again. And present examples from our research on the ways in which practitioners in Buddhist, Christian and Muslim traditions relate to the heart and how in different ways they experience and seek to cultivate love in their lives. So taking inspiration from this exercise and these examples, I hope to engage you in a discussion about how in different ways we do or could do anthropology and other forms of research of and from the heart. So if you agree, I'd like to begin by inviting you to take part in a short exercise. And if you don't feel like taking part in the exercise, then you can just take a pause, find your cell phone or walk out. We'll be finished in approximately 7 minutes. So if you wish, you can close your eyes. If you prefer, you can also leave them open, whatever you prefer. So I invite you to think back to a specific moment, a specific situation somewhere, a moment in which you felt someone was attending to you, looking at you, or listening to you with kindness and love. You can choose any experience you wish to attend to, and you'll not be asked to share this experience. So please take your time to let such a memory of a specific moment in which you felt someone was attending to you, looking at you, or listening to you with kindness and love, let such a moment come back to you. When did this happen? Where were you exactly? Did you see or hear anything? Do you remember what you felt at that moment when this person was looking at you, listening, or attending to you with kindness and love? How was this? How did you experience being seen or attended to in this way? Now, as a second step, I'd like to invite you to think back to a specific moment in which you felt that you were seeing someone, or listening to someone, attending to someone with kindness and love. Maybe this is the same moment, or it could be a different moment. A moment where you felt that you were seeing someone, or listening to someone, or attending to someone with kindness and love. When did this happen? And where were you? Can you recall how this was for you to see or listen to this person in this way with kindness and love? So now I invite you to bring your attention back into the space where you are physically located, to this room where we are gathered together. And if you came into contact with or recalled a sense of kindness or love, then you are very welcome to bring it with you. So welcome back, and thank you. So it would be very exciting for me to make an interview with you about the experience about the experiences that you touched into just now. There's a kind of trick. If I could have your phone number. Actually it would. This is what I'm interested in. These things are what I'm interested in. It would be very interesting to see if there were any patterns or differences. It would be interesting to hear about how the experiences that you remembered relate to the circumstances of your lives. How and in what circumstances do different experiences of love emerge in a person's life, and how do experiences of love impact on a person's life? So basic questions, but very interesting for me. And I imagine that the experiences that you may have lived could be of many different kinds. Some of you might have come in touch with their love for a partner, others perhaps the love for parents or children, or a friend or a teacher, perhaps an animal, a plant, a rock, or a landscape, or something entirely different. I have a lively fantasies, or imagining all kinds of things you might have come into contact with. Or and of course it can have many, it can be nice, pleasant qualities. It can also be including pain or other things. There are many things. But I wish to ask if you can bring with you the qualities that you touched into as we now will move through the rest of this presentation. So the questions that you could consider would be, for example, to come into contact with your own subjective experiences, in this instance experiences related to love. Does that help you to tune into other people's experiences? Or could such a listening inwards in some instances prevent you from listening outwards? In what follows in this presentation, what might touch or speak to you or resonate with you, and what might not, could be an interesting question. Do you find that anything resonates with how you work, or could be important for the people you work with, or could be relevant for the people who read our work? So let me try to as an attempt in this room where people know a lot of things about love and kindness, but let me attempt to say just tiny words about love. For one, there seems to be many kinds of love. I've realized this. Love can be pleasurable, can also be painful. People will do a lot for love. They will kill. Love is a very big business. It's on the radio. And sometimes it almost becomes a caricature. And sometimes we have a tendency to reduce love to very specific notions of romance. People across different cultures and religions often relate experiences of love to the heart. This can be the physical heart, this organ right here, or this area around the chest. And at other times people refer to an emotional, metaphorical or spiritual heart, or all these hearts at once. It is strange and also very interesting how we relate these physical, emotional and spiritual dimensions to the heart. A bit of a mystery. So in the Heart Openings project we're working with religious and contemplative communities in different parts of the world who have an explicit language about love and the qualities of the heart, and who also have practices through which they seek to train their hearts. Practices that ideally they do every day. And in this way, we believe these people can, from our perspective, be seen as specialists of love, specialists within the different contexts in which they live. By studying with people in very different parts of the world, we hope that we can expand our understanding of the qualities of the heart and about what it means to love in different ways, and how perhaps we might become better at loving. So I wish to show you a few clips. Yeah. So you will meet Maher, Hakka Maher, who is at this time 73 years old. He's in a comfortable place in his life, but he was struggling to find meaning and faith. A visit to a shrine of a holy man in Upper Egypt made a difference. So I was with Maher at this time of his life, and I asked Maher if he would be willing to share his experience. So we'll just show it. It's 2 minutes long.
The door opened of the door that entering to the maqam from the outside. I felt and I saw its bright light. Maybe for a very little time, and then I saw this man coming, starting walking. I felt he's looking into my heart. He's looking into my soul, into my heart. He's not just looking, gazing into my face like this, but he's looking at me deeply. Means it's a look that sort of it takes you all, excluded out of everything. I mean, even the sound around me or people talking. Nothing. I didn't feel as if it was me alone and going to him. And he took me in his arms and he embraced me. He embraced me very tightly. And he said, and he stayed like this for I don't know how long, but it was such a beautiful embrace. I felt it was Sheikh Salah embracing. And this is what I had asked for Sheikh Salah. I asked him, I want you to embrace me, I want you to take me in your arms. And I felt that he was answering me. And it was I don't know, I can't describe it. It was too beautiful. I myself, I can't really. It was too strong and too beautiful. I'm living with it from that moment. All doubts have gone. And ever since I came back, I feel the company of Sheikh Salah. I never felt this before. Even in everything I'm doing, as if he's holding my hand and he's guiding me. I'm surprised from what I feel, because I have never felt like this, and I didn't believe in this also. I didn't believe that such things exist.
So for Maher, this meeting with a holy man in Upper Egypt changed his relation not only to his religion and to God, but also to his children and to his wife. And he considers this moment as one of the most significant events in his life. So this video is from Egypt, and it's embedded in practices in Islam and Sufism. In the Heart Openings project, we use film and audiovisual media, and we use life story interviews and the anthropological methods of participation and observation. And with the help of our mentors, Catherine Heimann, Claire Petit-Manchon, and Martijn van Beek, we use interviews, or we try to use interviews inspired by microphenomenology to attend carefully to subjective experiences, to see if we can describe them. And it's a bit of an experiment, actually. It's complex thing to do, especially when it goes into religious, spiritual stuff. But we try. So I wish you to show another early attempt to apply this combination of methods. This video is from our work at the Vækst Center at Nørre Snede in Denmark, and it's with Ny. And when I first met Ny, she told me about a breathing exercise inspired by Tibetan Buddhism. It's a very simple exercise, but it has become very important for her, and she has used it, I think, more or less every day for the greater part of her life. She breathes in from above her head and breathes out from her heart. And in some way I connected with her in this exercise as it resonated with my own experience. And some weeks later, from when we first had an interaction, I asked Ny if she would do the breathing exercise again, and then I asked her if she can describe her experience to me. And she first says to me that the exercise brought her into a feeling of gratitude, cohesion, and that she feels trust. And then I asked her if she could go back to the very first part of the exercise before these feelings emerged. Jeg tror, jeg vil prøve at sige, bare helt så det er helt frisk.
Ja.
Om du vil, hvis det er okay med dig.
Ja.
Prøv at gøre det. Lave
åndedrættet.
Det her åndedræt. Et øjeblik, så kan du lige give mig et tegn, når du har gjort det. Og så spørger jeg, hvad skete det der?
Ja. Jeg kommer meget hurtigt i forbindelse med taknemmeligheden, og kommer ind i den der situation, hvor jeg ligesom får det af, og taknemmeligheden over, hvad det har betydet. Altså ligesom for hvad jeg har gjort, og mandalerne især. Det er det ene. Og det andet er, at jeg bag ved det der kamera, og bag ved det, at du har en rolle, og jeg har en anden rolle, så mærker jeg mærker samhørighed. Jeg mærker, at vi både sådan, altså vi gør os umage for at få noget, lavet et eller andet, som dur til et eller andet. Ikke?
Ja.
Det er vi sammen om. Men der er også et ekko, og det er et ekko af øvelsen, og den åbenhed. Den er der som et ekko. Altså, der er en åbenhed og en sårbarhed, men en tillid til, at vi er her.
Hvis vi går tilbage, hvis vi kan invitere dig til at gå tilbage, jeg har bedt dig om, jeg sidder i det her rum, vi har den her samtale, og jeg har fået en idé, og så beder jeg dig om, kan du prøve at lave øvelsen lige nu? Hvad er det allerførste, der sker derefter?
Rummet udvider sig. Jeg ånder ud fra hjertet og går ligesom med udånding ud, og rummet udvider sig.
Ånder ud fra hjertet, og der er en fornemmelse af, at rummet der udvider sig.
Ja, bevidstheden udvider sig.
Og når du fornemmer det, hvordan er det?
Det er lyst. Det er sådan himmelagtigt. Nu prøver jeg at lave øvelsen igen. Så prøver jeg at ånde ud og kontakte dit hjerte.
Yeah, so I have the privilege of being able to cut when it gets very exciting, actually. So maybe this can be for some a film that comes later. But actually, this was a very special moment for Ny and I. I tried to do a microphenomenological interview. I was learning this method, and then she kind of actually ends up breaking it apart to do an interview. But she does say a few things that I find is very valuable. We have a lot of laughs so I'll try to say something about what I think she says, but just you should know she laughs a lot when I tell her what I think is happening. So that's a bonding experience. That we record some of that as well, so we can show that. That's also a moment of a kind of love. So for me, there are some different things that can be said about a short clip like this. There's an emotional tone, breath, things to say about the gaze and the interaction between Ny and this somewhat strange person behind the camera, and also how the very moment of filming can sometimes, at least this is what I feel, become a site of cultivating a sense of love and connection. I feel connected to her in this moment. So here I just wish to pay attention to the words that she utters and how we work with these words to try to go deeper into concrete experiences relating to the cultivation of qualities of the heart. So she says, I exhale from the heart, the space and awareness expand, it is light, sky-like. So when exploring a short description of an experience like this, together with other interviews, for example the interview with Maher, I realized that the experiences and the content of the experiences are very different. They very different, and I also, but I'm also given some hints that there might be certain things that they can have in common. Maher describes how initially, while leaning his head to the marble of a shrine of a saint, he asks for a sign of love. He's then faced with a bright light and the gaze of a man who sees into his heart, a look that takes it all, excludes him from everything, an event that then proceeds to the embrace that he describes. So Ny also describes an initial act, a kind of micro act. I exhale from the heart, she says. And this appears to be followed by an event that happens to her. The space and awareness expands. It becomes light, sky-like. So these parallel movements might be hints that there can be experiential patterns, a progression between phases. The first could be called a trigger, a kind of action that these people do, or something that happens to them, which then triggers a second phase, the sense of some form of love and opening, or expansion, loosening, or softening. I think it's worth paying attention to some of the words and gestures that are used. So Ny's word sky-like, such words, something like words, I don't know what to call them, something like words, very often emerge when people try to express their experience of these moments. So like a sky, but not exactly sky, like wool, but not wool, like feathers, but not feathers, like streams of light, but not light. There's a lot of these something like words. Or Maher's, I felt like he's looking into my heart, and he's doing this gesture with his hands, the gesture of a hug. So, and then he says, it's a look that takes it all. So is this a visual or tactile sensation with his words and that he's describing with his words and his hands? Is it something that it is something that is not either or vision or touch, it is both. So these moments often have such synesthetic qualities. The microphenomenologist Claire Petit-Manchang might use the word transmodal qualities. At these moments, the boundaries between sensory modalities are dissolving. So I wish to show two new videos made by doctoral researchers Katrine Pahus and Kenny Eilert. The first video is made by Katrine Pahus with Olester, who is part of a Pentecostal community in Tanzania. And the second video is made by Kenny Eilert and shows Margrethe, who is a priest working in Denmark.
I felt good. I felt to love in every person. When I say a person, I wanted just to hug her and say, I love you. Even if, you know, at school there is a lot of things. Someone maybe has stolen your shoes, and they know this one stole me a shoes, this one stole me a sweater. But when I saw those people, I loved them. Not difficult to explain, but it is something like a kind of love which I cannot explain. Mwibia kwanza mtoto nimekuwekea ameamka anataka yoyo mwache acheze imba sasa. Kwa hiyo ni kama wiki 2-3 zilizopita nilikuwa nawaza moyo, nasema Mungu, natamani kwenda kutumika na mume wangu Dodoma kabisa. Wakati nawaza hivyo nikaota ndoto usiku. Ndoto inaniambia kwamba nimekuandalia kazi Dodoma na kesho utakuwa kwenye interview. Ilivyofika mchana kuja kuangalia kwenye posti zangu, nimetumiwa kweli message ya kuitwa kwenye interview kwa ajili ya hiyo kazi. You know, it's like you call someone, then he answers your call on the spot. Like I'm with Jesus now. Yes, because here. Yes. So inaanza nafikiri yani hali ambayo iliyonipata ile kama kulipuka. Yani kulipuka, kwa mfano unapofungua Coca-Cola. Yes. Kwa hiyo yani ni kitu ambacho niona kama vile kuna mlipuko fulani. Ndio ule mlipuko sasa unaonyesha nina kitu kikubwa, kitu chenye uwezo, lakini feel something is there. Ndio reaction sasa za shauti, kukimbia, yani kama vile kureact kile ambacho kimeibuka ndani kwa dada. Shikamoo. Salamu mzee Suhr. Shikamoo. Za majukumu. Salamu, tunapita na dada huyu.
Det jeg allerførst kommer til at tænke på, det var i går, hvor hvor hektisk arbejdsdag, og så var der andagt i kirken. Der er sådan en fredsandagt, og meget kort. Og så sætter en kollega sig bag mig, og siger, wow, en vild dag, og snakker lige lidt, og så ligger hun hånden på min skulder. Og så, wow, så faldt jeg bare lige helt ned. Det var sådan en meget kort lille ting, men uden ord og meget kort, eller det for mig opleves det som enormt lang tid, og hvis et andet menneske havde set på det, så gætter jeg på, at man nærmest ikke havde lagt mærke til det, fordi det sikkert bare har været et sekund eller to, men det opleves som sådan at jeg lige sådan faldt 10 cm længere ned i stolen, og sænkede skuldrene. En varme, der strømmer igennem mig, og en sådan oplevelse af forbundethed med de mennesker, der er omkring mig, som strækker sig længere end bare vores relation. Noget, der sidder eller som løber igennem mig. Men som ikke kun er i den relation, men som spreder sig til rummet. Og en oplevelse af at blive set. Eller sådan genuin oplevelse af at blive set. Som ikke handler om viden, om hvad jeg er egentlig, hvad det kommer med. At lige der, jeg kan slappe af. Og det stoler jeg på. Den ro stoler jeg på. Ja. Altså, så på den måde, så fortæller min krop mig, det her det er trygt. Og så bliver jeg det.
So, yes, for me, I think for me, I feel it's something very valuable. It's just staying with such tiny moments, and I believe that the descriptions of Margrethe and Olester show a transition into experiential qualities that resonate with what we saw in the previous videos. These 4 examples are very different to each other, very different events, context and content. And some of these experiential events appear to be triggered by actions that people did. Others were triggered by events such as receiving a letter or feeling a hand on the shoulder. However, they also have some things in common. And of course, a very basic observation is that how they all describe the sense of connection with others that's emerging in these moments. So when we find hints to such small microdynamics or patterns that appear to emerge across interviews, it means that we can become better at attending to them if they appear or if they do not appear in the next interview. And in addition, and perhaps more importantly, we can bring these observations into our dialogues with the people we work with to explore them further. All right. So why do we think focusing on such super tiny moments of love or related qualities are relevant or even important? So the world and the media is saturated with urgent problems that we need to attend to and take care of. The climate crisis, the rapid decline of biodiversity, war in Sudan, Gaza, Ukraine, and in many other places. And I would add a crisis of indifference and intercultural and interreligious misunderstanding. In the midst of the challenges we face, it seems important to keep breathing, keep loving, keep eating strawberries and growing them, keep remembering and attending to the things that make life precious, beautiful and worth living. So in this project we work with religious and contemplative communities, and these religious traditions have in common a language and a set of practices relating to love and to the heart. But these traditions have also been part of centuries of conflict. For many people, the experiences we are exploring are among the most precious in their lives. But experiences of love can also be full of pain and can be the site of conflict. So it's relevant from an existential perspective to examine how it might be possible to work with the heart and with love, how to become better at loving. The scholarly response, at least in anthropology, where I come from, and also in the study of religion, to such conflicts have in recent decades been to embrace people, cultures, and religions in their difference. But I think it's possible to, sometimes ethical attempts to respect difference have resulted in reifications and the encouragement of difference. So for me, there is a question around how can we explore with enthusiasm also what we share despite differences or across differences, to also embrace that. This might be different in your disciplines, but maybe that's coming from anthropology, and how to live together with our differences. So in this talk I've attempted to express how I believe audiovisual media and life story interviews and microphenomenological interviews that zooms into such very tiny specific experiences as you saw here can be combined with anthropological fieldwork and to explore experiences of love. And so you should know these videos and experiences are used, as you saw in the film yesterday, we usually also attend to everyday life and interaction and practices, and yes. But we believe that doing this, paying attention to such experiences and how people seek to cultivate them, can be useful if we wish to give the qualities of the heart more space, also in research and teaching. So now I think it's time for discussion, and I'm happy to discuss in more detail the use of these methods that I very briefly introduced. And it would be very interesting for me to hear how what I've presented here might resonate or not resonate with your experiences and understandings and ways of working with love or kindness in the fields of work that you have. So thank you.
Floor is open for questions. First question.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. So moving and so many things I could connect with. I was thinking about your presentation, and the thing that was kind of in the back of my mind, sort of percolating, was with this kind of I think we have this posture where we're trying to give people their freedom, and that's one of the reasons why we don't intervene in their space. So it's a non-malicious reason why we are detached. And the interview with the shoulder, right? And how, you're invading someone's space, you're touching someone's body. We don't often do that, but that gesture made her feel cared for. And I feel like that we're living with this deception where we think that people will be happy if they respect our freedom and therefore don't give advice, don't moralize. But the way we experience it is that we don't feel cared for, right? So, yeah, I just find that there is this kind of cognitive gap that we are running around with. And I think that clip just showed how we all want to be cared for. We don't mind if someone comes and, invades our space. So, yeah, I was really moved by that.
Thank you.
Do you want to say something?
I think it's. I'm very grateful for that observation and the way you formulated it, and it's. I'll right away bring it to Kenny, who's finishing his PhD thesis on recognition and yes, and so thank you.
Thank you. That was really touching. I was lying in the back for my migraine, but I was very attentively listening. I have a question about the constitution of expertise. I found really interesting because I think you said like experts in love, which are in this meditative religious circles. And I kind of had to think, like, I'm a trained philosopher. It's already hard if you're in a circle of family or friends and you have a certain competence, and I don't know, thinking about the nature of the world or the good in a way. But it's usually it's hard for others to accept that in a way, as you would be a mathematician or quantum physicist, where you have an expertise where everybody's like, oh, they are a quantum physicist, cool. And I was wondering or thinking, an expertise in love is even more general in the sense that it's hard to accept as an expertise. So since you're an anthropologist, you're actively constituting an expertise and saying, these are the experts I'm interviewing. And I was wondering, what are the factors that constitute that? And what is the learning from that? And as a follow-up question, I was wondering about your decision to only look into constituted religious practices. And like, I was wondering, as a non-believing person, if there would be secular spaces where you could also look into, like, with my past, I was thinking about clubs, for example, being close to Berlin or so, if that ever crossed your mind, or even if you already had some research on it.
Yes, so thanks for these, both the comment and the questions. So I don't know, I mean, another way to present these people could say they are ordinary people, in some sense, and within their context. They are, they're not the big sheikh or the big religious leader or the big philosopher or something. They're not like they're more or less like, regular people within whatever that means in the context. But I like to the fact that they like what we were trying to think about as criteria of selection, as it's called. This doesn't really work in anthropology, because you have to work with whoever wants to work with you. So it's people who select you, not the other way around. So anyway, we when thinking about so-called criteria of selection, we thought we would love to find people who have an active language around these things about love and hard qualities. I use these words, I need to use them very softly, because love means so many different things for different people. In some traditions you have love, and then you have compassion, then you have something else. In other traditions, like what I work with in Egypt, in Sufism, you have love as a key to everything, which contains other, and other people have other ways of relating to it. So we use these words very deliberately fluffy. And then we ask people, whatever comes to your mind, is there something you wish to share? And somebody shares, oh, somebody did this to me. And then it's from within those experiences that people share that we hopefully derive definitions, if we arrive at any definitions. So that's maybe a gesture of saying they are the experts in whatever counts as love or hard qualities in their life. I cannot come with my definition of what is love and say, does your experience fit into this? I have to say, I've heard about something around the heart. I'm not sure what it is. Do you have any knowledge of this or experience with this? Is there something you wish to share? And then through what they offer, we can. So that's the way I think about these people. There are certainly experts in their own lives, or specialists in their own lives and their own. And then they are also specialists in the sense that they have quite an active and elaborate language around love or hard qualities, and they have practices that ideally they do every day, some of them quite intensively. So we're interested in this. What does it mean to train? And then to your second question about non-religious, I'm a bit hesitant around drawing very strict boundaries between something secular and something religious, or a believer or a non-believer. Usually those distinctions also can fall apart at some point. So lots of the people you meet, I think Ny is also an artist, and she's also many other things than doing these breathing exercises, and Hake Meher is an engineer and other things. So it's hard to draw very clear boundaries. But you're absolutely right. It would be just as meaningful to do, and we also do interviews with people who have had experiences of love through artistic practices, for example, or through gardening, or through receiving a hug from a sister, or from or this particular hand on the shoulder was not specifically Christian or something like that. So we tried to do that, but anyway, the project was somehow developed through this idea of Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, but we have expanded beyond that, but not systematically. Like I would love to do a project on gardening, for example, as a community of love making in a way, or couples therapy maybe, or other kinds of things. So then dancing. Lovely. Yeah, actually, we have a project about a dancing community in Denmark that's absolutely not religious, but it's a dancing community, and so yeah. So we have expanded, and I think it's relevant and important. Yes, but I do have a lot of respect though for traditions that are very old and have very old practices and are quite well established, and I think that's worth attending to. And then there's of course also the fact that those traditions are in conflict sometimes, quite often seen in conflict. That there are tensions between something Islamic and something Christian and something Buddhist every now and then, not always. So there is also that question, like, what does it mean to talk about love and the heart and all of this stuff while there is wars and abuse and discrimination and all of this stuff? So that's another reason to focus on that. Yeah.
Kristen and then Amber.
So I'm very interested in the background condition of the contemporary interviews, which is modernity, right? And you're talking about a set of practices that allow for the cultivation of love and connection, but within a consistent frame, even if it's transnational, of modernity. So is there the possibility that the shared experience is in reaction to modernity? And if you were to go back and, let's say, look at literature from the Middle Ages or religious practices from the past, pre-modern, would there be consistency? Or would those traditions look very different? I mean, this is a more esoteric question. I'm just curious what you think.
It's a great question and a super hard question to answer if you're actually sort of born and bred in modernity. So I don't know if I should try, but I will try. I will try. So it's true. What I showed here are, let me see, all quite educated, modern people in different parts of the world. You can say that. I was showing a film yesterday night, for example, where you also met people sort of in the countryside of Egypt, which is it's very hard to get outside modernity and outside capitalism. It's very tough and hard. I don't know, maybe some of the communities that were mentioned before, but they will also be reacting to capitalism and modernity in some ways, right? So it's super tough to get outside of it. I will say, though, that for me personally, it is really inspiring and important to really get far out in the countryside in Egypt and talk with people who don't speak English, who didn't go to the kind of school I did, and listen to how they describe these things. And I worked in Papua New Guinea in an island in Papua New Guinea with a colleague, and we hope to carry out a part of the project in Papua New Guinea. It hasn't happened yet due to some conflicts and stuff happening there, but hopefully we will. And so there, I think maybe the further you go to places where people live from subsistence farming or fishery or things like this, where they actually will, where they're not dependent on the world economy, there people sometimes have perspectives that are different and are really, really important. So that I feel that they can see things that I can't actually see. Are they radically different? I don't think so. I can, anyway, but I can only, I feel we're still in the same boat somehow. It's still something I can identify with. Yesterday night you saw Sheikh Hussein Hassana, who was describing, it was very brief, but he was describing how a smile might develop during Hatra rituals. He was saying it very briefly, but when he says this, I'm full of smile, and I somehow felt something of what he was talking about. So and I find that beautiful. But so I think we are not like completely apart. But he definitely has things to teach me that about being full of capitalism and modernity. So, yeah. Something like this, yeah.
Amber.
Thank you. I'm interested in the before and the after of the interviews. So, how well do you know the people you're interviewing? How well do they know you? How familiar are you with each other before you go into the interview? And then has there ever been kind of follow-up interviews? And what are they like? Because in particular, it seems like talking about that kind of very sensitive thing, a lot of people might feel that it changes the experience to share it once you said it out loud and formulated it in words. And some might be worried, therefore not willing to share, but then those, I guess, are not people who then approach you and say, I'll be interviewed. But I'm wondering, does the experience of sharing the experience change them, and have you looked into that? And I know you said a little bit about that with regard to a certain sequence in the film, but I'm wondering about with respect to these interviews.
Yes, so this particular form of interviewing, which is developed by Claire Pitié-Manchang and draws on a much longer tradition, especially developed in France by different people, it's been used for a lot of different purposes, and I have also been in projects where we use this method, for example, to study the experience of watching a film clip or solving a mathematic puzzle or some things that you can actually do. I can invite a whole room full of people and, okay, let's do the interview. How was it to solve this mathematical puzzle? It gets much more tricky when it's something that focuses on something that's at the core of people's, like what really feels important for them, because it's holy, it's sacred in some ways. And so the method in these situations have to be used with much more delicacy. So I think it's very pertinent that you know people somehow, and that there is, it also, this method completely does not work if there's not some degree of trust, and because people just can't describe their experience without feeling that it's a safe situation. So So there has to be some relationship. Whether it's a long relationship or it's a short relationship might depend. I have experienced that sometimes you just click and there is some complete connection. Other times it takes more time, but it's not a kind of it's not easy just to do 100 interviews or something. It really takes time. And what you said about doing repeat interviews, and we also it's important to say we don't only do interviews. We do other things as well. We participate, and sometimes this research project is also an excuse to spend time with people we like to hang out with. So, for example, I work with the woman you saw. I'm learning how to make a certain cream she makes. So we do this as well. From herbs and stuff. But so the ongoing thing is very important, and also like consent is not a signature on a piece of paper where after you have read some complicated writing. It's really about trying to, of course, inform people before you do a lot of recordings, especially if it's film. I should say we also do interviews without film. This is just something we do with people where that makes sense. But then consent is also, it has to be a rolling process so that you can return and that people really can withdraw and that you can show the material to people, and often those moments are really valuable. Like that actually. They're both very meaningful and warm. It's also vulnerable as a researcher to say, okay, now I try to make an analysis of your interview. You said something about sky-like. And I spent 2 weeks thinking about sky-like. Can I show this to you? In order to get your consent that I can show it at a conference in Germany or elsewhere. So it's vulnerable because you can say no, and I have to respect that. I can of course lose my job if I don't respect that, but I also have to respect it as a it's important. But what do I want to say about it? These moments are very valuable, both because you'll have people resonating with it, and usually, sometimes they will be correcting you and saying, "Oh, you made a mistake here or there. Actually, it was more this." But very often, the relationship also deepens a lot. There's a big. I really cherish these moments a lot. The sharing and sort of, because you're making analysis with people. It's not. There's a very nice scene with Ny and I sitting in a garden, and I'm trying to explain my analysis, and she just has a great laugh about this, and then she adds something and takes it to a whole new level, and hopefully this is part of the next. If I'm invited to the Einstein Forum next year, come and show that. So it needs to be this kind of process. Was this? And then you asked about something else. No. Yeah.
So I didn't see any further questions, did I? Oh, there's Killian wants to come back.
I'm really curious about it, and as I already outed myself as the goth in the room, interested in negative effect, and you mentioned that love is not always good, but you kill out of love as well.
What?
That love is not always good, but you also kill out of love, and so on. And so I was wondering if you ever had a moment of these interviews where somebody was intimately describing that love, and you had that moment of, oh, I cannot sign up to this love. Because I had the feeling like so far in all these videos, I was totally, oh, this is beautiful. But I was remembering a couple of days ago, I talked to somebody who was an ex-hooligan for a soccer team, and he really loved his soccer team, but he was really ashamed of it now in a way. And I'm sure there's a lot of descriptions of love where there would also be a distancing effect happening in a way. And I wondered if you had these and what you do with these in your research.
Yes, really, really good question. I'm just trying to remember. Like I don't think I've had moments where I like felt really some contempt around this person's love. I don't think I've had that, but I've had moments where I couldn't completely connect, or which is some kind, can be almost indifference, which is a bit tough actually, because so I think it's very it's delicate. Like if you open up this kind of space for sharing, I think you really, as an interviewer, you have a responsibility to try to receive whatever is coming. Of course, you are not always able to do that, but and if you're not able to do that, then you're not able to do that, and that's it. But at least you should try. And so there are some experiences that come to my mind that are triggering. Not in terms of me not being able to relate to the love, but to the, like, sometimes people are describing experiences that are triggering something difficult in your life, and you feel like, oh, I prefer to close this, or they're going into difficult emotions or something and there can be this tendency to say, oh, let's stop, or this could be difficult. And I think sometimes that's not the best way to react. If people are coming up with something, it's better to stay with it, and or if you have to really stop and leave it, then you need to really do that in a gentle way, because people are opening their hearts, and I think this is also to the core of actually the project, right? So we have these traditions with languages and practices around love and heart openings, and that's great, and that can be used for manipulation and hurt, because when a person has a completely open heart, you can really hurt people, and you can manipulate, and you can, so this also, and in these interviews, you can say this form of interview is an invitation into a kind of heart open kind of heart space to some, even if you make an interview about solving a mathematical puzzle, you are entering into describing something quite intimate around your experience. So that comes with responsibility and ethics, and does this in any way resonate with what you're? I'm thinking about another example about this, but it's not related to this method, but it was more when working on radicalization and Islamophobia and these kinds of things in the Danish context. I remember a particular moment where I wrote an article about a guy, a Palestinian I worked with for many years. He's a psychiatric patient for many years, and is victim to war crimes, and was lots of different difficult things in his life. And then he got himself into really deep trouble in Denmark, and how to cut this story short. Anyway, I wrote an article about, because the way he got into trouble in Denmark became quite a public scandal, and it was used by the right wing to really, show these are the crazy people in our country. They should be removed or get out and stuff. And I kind of wrote an article about who I thought he was in terms of his background and his life, and why these things happen in the way they did. So that was quite tough, and it led to lots of aggression from right-wing, like hyper right-wing people writing stuff, and blogs, and my address being shared and stuff like this. But there was this one comment that I really kind of got to me, and it was because I in this article I wrote, which is a very dry, matter-of-fact article, but I had this one sentence where I wrote about a picture that I've seen of this guy in his childhood before the civil war in Lebanon, where he looked like any other ordinary boy of 9 years old with, or even maybe 6 years old, or even like he's, maybe 5 or 6, with, milk teeth. And so I have written this sentence. And so there was because commentators, this right-wing forum that was saying, oh, this guy doesn't even realize that our person in this conflict that had been occurring also had milk teeth. And it's true. I didn't even think about whatever background this other person who was involved in this case, what he had been through, what drove him to his position, I didn't treat him with the same kind of empathy or understanding. I just didn't, and so I think that's really important, that we try to extend our attempt to understand even to those that are thought of, that we think about as opponents or people we really disagree with. Does this make sense? I think I'm just talking too much.
Thank you very much.